back in mid-June of 2021, Monterey Park announced Slime Rancher 2, and I cannot wait for it! But in the meantime, I decided to dust off the old Steam library and replay the original. And I noticed something. While still very enjoyable, something jumped out at me that really puts a drag on the otherwise really enjoyable game. Now, a point of contention is, I have already been in the game multiple times. So I was aware of where everything was, what slimes were where, which slimes loved which food, how to maximise my plot profit, and where all the Gordos were. Because of that, I wasn't really exploring the world anymore. Because of that, this video is through the eyes of someone who has already played the game and knows all its little secrets, as opposed to someone going into it for the first time, experiencing and exploring a new world I know nothing about. Due to that, my perspective is a biased one, and sadly there's nothing I can do about that. However, despite the fact that throughout this video I criticise Slime Rancher, I want to make it clear that I love Monterey Park, and I am so excited for the next game. So, whatever Monterey Park decides to do after Slime Rancher 2, I'm on board for it. And if they want to call it quits after that, I am extremely thankful to them for the hours and hours of enjoyment they've given me with Slime Rancher and hopefully Slime Rancher 2. So what is my problem with Slime Rancher? Where do I think the fault falls? Well, there's two big things, I think. However, the fact that I can only find two things to criticise about the first game should be a testament to just how impressive the game company they are. Monterey Park really cared about that game. They released it to YouTubers to play. They gave pre-beta, they gave pre-alpha, they let YouTubers play this game and they let them stream it. Monterey Park loves their audience and loves their community, and thank you for that. I know I just praised you, but seriously, I come down harsh on you in this video, but seriously, you guys are awesome. Also, if you haven't played Slime Rancher yet, despite not really being a game you can really spoil, I still think everyone should experience this game for themselves and discover the world of Slime Rancher. So, if you haven't played it yet, I advise you to click off this video, go buy it, play through it. Hey, by the time this video is up, Slime Rancher 2 is probably out, so play the first game, have a lot of fun, and then go directly into the second one and play that one. Okay? Cool. With that being said, if you're still here, I presume either you don't care about spoilers, or you already know about the game. So going forward, I'll be speaking as if you have played the game. Now, while writing this script, I realised what I'm criticising is completely optional of the game, and Slime Rancher can be beaten without ever needing to interact with it. Which raises the question, does one really have the right to criticise something extra to a game that is completely optional that the development team simply added in for a more enjoyable experience? It would be like someone criticising the fact that they got bonus DLC included in their purchase of a game without having to pay for it. The DLC is completely extra and it's not required to beat the game. The same is true of these mechanics. That being said, not using these mechanics in the game, while optional, overall handicaps the player, which may be a way some wish to play. However, the vast majority of people would have used it. And the first time they play through, even these people that don't choose to use it, probably would have used it. I said use too much and that doesn't sound like a real word. I should probably name what I'm talking about. I am talking about the grinding mechanic of the Slime Lab, and to a lesser extent, Ogden's Kokokuba quest. As I said, both of these are completely optional parts of the game. In order to see if it was possible to beat the game without Ogden's upgrades and the labs, I did just that. I beat the game without unlocking the lab or doing Ogden's quest. And yeah, I could. The game is completely beatable without the lab or Ogden's upgrade. But just because it's optional doesn't mean it's not beneficial. However, with Slime Rancher being a game that I've beaten no less than, I'm gonna say a dozen times, probably more, it raised the question, do I consider grinding for resources tedious because I already know exactly what I'm doing? I no longer have to figure things out. I know exactly where to find the Gordos, the keys, the chests, what their favourite foods are, all that. I know how to optimise my game early on to max the amount of profit I make, and I know which upgrades to mainly focus on. I know what I need for teleporters, drones and tools. I know all of it. Which raises the question, did I still find it tedious the first time I played? I don't know. I don't remember. The same could be said of Ogden's Quest. Did I only find it tedious because I knew what I was doing? The question to ask is, does one have the right to criticise something completely optional? Well, that's up to you to decide. At the end of this video, leave your responses, answers, and or rebuttals in the comment section below. I'm fascinated to hear your responses. This is something I'm curious about. I've worked so hard on this script, and if I'm just talking to the camera, if I'm just talking to the mic, I never get any feedback. I can put my views out there, but without anyone responding, I'm just talking to the void. So give me your rebuttals, give me your responses, argue my points. I'm fascinated to hear what you say. Or just say, yeah, you're right, I agree with you. Your points were valid. So, I said that the grinding mechanic was bad. Some may say it's weird to be criticising a farming mechanic in a game about farming. However, I believe there is a fine distinction between farming and grinding. They may be similar, but they are very different. The difference between farming and mining in Slime Rancher is when it comes to farming, you, the player, are the one in control. If you need honey plots for a drone, but don't have any honey slimes on your ranch, you, the player, can go up to the moss blanket so you can find the honey slimes, so you can get the honey plots that you need for your fabrication. Or if you, the player, have already taken the time to harvest honey slimes, you, the player, can simply collect the plots from the corrals you decide to build. It's all on you. However, when it comes to collecting resources for the lab or Ogden's Quest, it's the game that's in control. And that's not good. That's where RNG gets you. If you, the player, need one wild honey for a teleporter, you, the player, have to fabricate the extractor, walk over to the moss blanket, plant down the extractor in the moss blanket, and wait. Wait 12 minutes. Wait for the game to tell you what you're going to get. You could go off and explore more, go back to your ranch and sleep it off, or if you don't have any supplies, just knock yourself out and instantly return to the ranch where it'll be the next day. Whatever you choose to do, when you return to collect the loot you spent your resources on, it's the game that decides what you get. And if you didn't get the one resource or that one item you needed, too bad! Now you gotta wait another full in-game day for the next drop. So you walk back to your ranch, drop off the supplies, and then wait again. Or if it's a basic extractor, it will disappear after one use. And if you didn't have another one in your inventory, you'd have to spend the time waiting while walking back to the ranch, waiting while going up to the lab, waiting while checking to see if you have the resources you need for the extractor, waiting while walking back to the moss blanket, and waiting while you plant the extractor down. And then wait another 12 minutes, see if it gets what you want. Mind you, if you don't have the supplies needed to create an extractor to collect the item that you wanted, you would need to go to slime, the plots that you need to return to the lab to create the fabricator for the miner. If you don't have enough plots, then you'd have to wait until the next cycle, so you can collect the slimes, to collect the resource, to collect the extractor, to collect the item, to collect the resource you wanted. Doesn't that feel like too many steps? And then, after all that, once again, if you didn't get the supply you wanted, you would once again have to go through all those steps. It's just more waiting, and more waiting, and more waiting, which isn't fun. And all of this just so you can acquire an item to make your overall journey easier and more enjoyable, which is the point. The game is supposed to be enjoyable, and almost every other feature in the game is. However, waiting is not enjoyable. Still a line from Sequelitis.
Waiting is the bane of exploration. Why would I want to explore in a world where I gotta waste useless time?
But mining isn't the main purpose of the game. It's the farming and adventure. You weren't supposed to spend all your time waiting for the extractor. You're supposed to plop them down and go off and explore the world. That's where I think replay can cripple a game like this. The first time you play through, there's lots to explore. You Plop your extractor down and wander off into a new area where there's new slimes, new items, new locations, new possibilities, and everything's all shiny and pretty. Then on your way back to your ranch, you walk past your extractor, you suddenly remember, oh yeah, I put one of those down, I completely forgot because I was exploring. And you collect the resource, and it doesn't matter what it is because you had so much fun just exploring the world. But the second time you play through the game, you already know what lies ahead. Sure, you may still find some new things, but for the most part, you know everything. However, while collecting footage for this video, I found a new location that I had never explored before, and I have to gush over how excited I got discovering the Mustache Island, and how I became completely reignited with adventure, exploring every corner I could see or think just to see if there was something else there. Unfortunately, there wasn't. As far as I can tell, the Mustache Island was the last secret I hadn't found in the game. On the other hand, whenever I wasn't waiting for the extractor to collect the resource I needed, I spent my time completing Ogden's quest. And just straight up, it was not fun. Ogden's quest is slow, repetitive, and tedious. I don't like saying that about a game that has so many good features about it, but yeah, it wasn't good. The idea of Ogden's quest is to collect the Kookadoobas for him from the wild, for him to give you upgrades to help you save time with your farms. But the time I spent completing the quest was so time consuming, I believe it would have been more efficient just to skip the quest altogether. My farms would have grown faster if I'd just been focusing on them instead. On top of that, by the time I had completed the quest, I was already far enough along in the game that I didn't really need the upgrade he offered, which is another issue I want to talk about. And if the video's been made by the time I finish this, there'll be a link in the end of the video, or in the description. I don't know, I haven't started writing it yet, I started thinking about it the other day. The first quest consists of collecting 75 Kookadoobas for Ogden. However, the most Kookadoobas you'll likely find in any given day is 20 to 30, and that takes between 10 and 15 minutes to collect them. Even the Kookadooba balls, which give you up to 5 Kookadoobas that sometimes spawn in the wild, were almost completely absent when I played. Then you have to wait for the next in-game day before they respawn, only for you to trot around the exact same map, looking for the same items, in the same locations, doing the same actions over and over and over and over again. Then after 3 or 4 in-game days and close to an hour doing the exact same thing, you get your first unlockable. Then you need to do the exact same thing, but this time with 120 Kookadoobas in order to get the next upgrade, which once again takes actual hours. In fact, I can tell you exactly how long it took. It took 1 hour, 9 minutes, and 42 seconds. To be exact. Wow. 1 hour. Was that really all it was? Gee, it felt so much longer. Which is the point, actually. It wasn't fun. And despite only being 1 hour, it felt so much more time consuming and repetitive. I think this is mainly because the player isn't the one in control of the quest, but instead is at the mercy of the game and what it decides to offer the player at any given time. You also weren't, or at least I wasn't doing the quest because I wanted to. I was only doing it because I wanted the garden upgrade. There was never a moment while doing the quest I thought, even after completing this quest, I'm still going to do it because collecting Kookadoobas is just so much fun. Because I didn't want to do it. The sad thing is, Monterey Park shows us that it is possible to have a side quest in the form of Mochi's Quicksilver slime minigame that not only works, but is fun and directly relates to the player's ability. Even after completing the quest, I found myself returning to this minigame because how enjoyable it was. Mochi's quest requires the player to chase after the Quicksilver slimes and hit them with their vac pack, but the quick slimes are fast, and the only way to keep up with them is to sprint. But if the player runs out of sprint, they'll have to wait for it to recharge. This places the fact that the Quicksilver slimes outrun the player purely on the player because they didn't upgrade their sprint ability. On top of that, in order to acquire the Quicksilver slime plots Mochi wants, it's the player that's in control. Unlike the wilds, the Quicksilver slimes don't just randomly spawn around the map as the game decides. Instead, they can only be acquired by the player, causing them to appear by interacting with the world. Once the player triggers the shockwave, it's completely up to the player as to how many plots they get. The outcome of the event is completely dependent on the player, and whether the player ends up with 1, 10, or 100 plots, it's because the player chose how to play. It was a challenge, and even if it was grinding, it was fun! Which really is the main difference between these two quests. Mochi's quest feels fun, where Ogden's just doesn't. I found myself completing Mochi's minigame only to sprint back to my ranch to sleep in order to be able to play it again because how fun it was. Even though I was grinding to unlock a resource, it never felt like grinding. Ogden's Quest, on the other hand, feels completely unconnected to the wild. Even if Ogden's Quest had taken place on the far, far range, Mochi's world, or even Victor's digital world, nothing would have changed about the hunting for the Kukudubas. They were just plants that grew in the wild. There was no reason they couldn't have grown in a special garden on your ranch, or just in the overworld in general. The only reason they can't is because the game is programmed that way. The two big features of the wild are the saber slimes and the Kukuduba hunting. However, despite those being the only two real things in the wild, they're completely unrelated. If the wild didn't have saber slimes, the hunt for the Kukudubas wouldn't have changed. You still run around looking for berries. And if the wilds didn't have Kukuduba hunting, it wouldn't have changed to saber slimes. Saber slimes don't eat Kukudubas. They're just there. It was completely unrelated. Whereas with Mochi's Quest, the environment is completely connected to the quest. Quicksilver slimes are all over the far, far range. However, the only way to summon them is to use the shockwave technology Mochi owns, which is only set up in Mochi's land. If the game were to get rid of the shockwave technology, it would raise the question as to why you can't just find the Quicksilver slimes everywhere else. Likewise, if the shockwave summoned regular slimes that can be found throughout the far, far range, it would raise the question, why can't the player just use their own plot from their own ranch for Mochi's Quest? However, by combining the two factors, it creates a logical reason for why Mochi's land is the only location in the game where you can find plots she wants. And yes, once again, I am fully aware I am criticizing a completely optional part of the game where Monterey Park added into the game for free, which they could have easily hidden behind a paid DLC paywall like so many other companies did, but they didn't, which is awesome. So thank you. So, how could Ogden's Quest have been changed to be more enjoyable and less grinding? I have two ideas for how Monterey Park could have modified Ogden's Quest and the Wild to make the game more immersive and put the player back in control. Version 1. What if instead of Kukuduba hunting to complete Ogden's Quest, the game instead do this? In the wild, have one prehistoric Saber Gordo who spawns in a different location every day, and the only food they eat being fresh Kukudubas. Unlike the actual version of Slime Rancher in this version, Kukudubas cannot be found in the wild. Instead, the only way to get them is to trade Saber Slime plots to Ogden, who will give you 50 fresh Kukudubas for 50 Saber Slime plots. However, fresh Kukudubas only stay fresh for 120 seconds, so the player has to feed them to the prehistoric Saber Slime Gordo before they stop being fresh. After feeding the prehistoric Saber Slime 50 fresh Kukudubas, they burst, dropping prehistoric Saber Slime plots, which then can be traded to Ogden as opposed to Kukudubas, which the original had, which gets the player closer to completing their quest. Now, you may be saying this is just like grinding. In order to get the item I want, I first have to collect the prehistoric Saber Slime plot. But in order to collect those, I need to feed the Gordo. But in order to feed the Gordo, I need to collect the Kukudubas. But in order to do that, I need to collect Saber Slimes. And yes, to a degree, that is right. But the game is about farming, and it works in this situation because you are in control. This works because it places the player in control of the situation. In order to progress the quest, the player has to trade prehistoric Saber Slime plots to Ogden. In order to get the prehistoric Saber Slime plots, the player has to venture out and look into the prehistoric Saber Slime Gordo. In order to feed the prehistoric Saber Slime Gordo, the player has to obtain fresh Kukudubas. And in order to obtain the fresh Kukudubas, the player has to collect Saber Slime plots. And in order to collect the Saber Slime plots, the player has to go out on an adventure to obtain them from the Saber Slimes, which can be done by feeding them any food they like, or by combining their plots with another slime and feeding them the second slime's favourite food to obtain twice as many. As I said, while this is still technically grinding, the difference here is the player can mine as many Saber Slime plots as they like. All you have to do is sacrifice Krell for them. If the player doesn't have enough Saber Slime plots, it's the player's fault, as they're the one who dictates how many Saber Slime plots are available. Whereas in the original version, the game limits how many Kukudubas there are in the wild on any given day, placing the fact that the player doesn't have enough on the fault of the game, not the player. Yes, the player could just return to the far, far range, sleep, and then return to be able to collect more Kukudubas. But the player shouldn't have to stop what they're doing, waste time returning to the ranch, and then return to the exact same spot they were in before, only for the game to tell them they can continue. Games should never do that. Then we have version 2, which, similar to the first version, also removes the main focus of Kukuduba hunting, but still encompasses the use of Kukudubas. The way this version would work would be, instead of hunting for Kukudubas, the player has to use Ogden's Deluxe Gordo traps, which the player has to trade 20 or 30 Saber Slimes to get one. This can be done as much as the player likes, as long as they have the Saber Slime plots available. However, Have the first unlockable of Ogden's quest be a special garden that allows the player to grow Kukudubas on the far range, which will come in useful later. In this version of Slime Rancher, the Kukudubas are the only food that the Saber Slimes will eat, which will give the player 1 Saber Slime plot. However, the player can trade 20 Kukudubas, or 1 full garden's worth of Kukudubas, to acquire 1 golden Kukuduba from Ogden. This incentivizes the player to explore the wild when they first get there, as the only way to get Saber Plorts for the quest is to feed Saber Slimes Kukudubas that at that time can only be acquired from the wild. This allows the player to not only understand where Kukuduba spawns, but also gets the player to explore the area, getting to know it. This works because it combines all the features of the wild to be connected. If Kukudubas didn't grow in the wild, the player can get the Saber Plorts to complete the quest. And if Saber Slime spawned anywhere else apart from the wild, it wouldn't make sense as to why there are no Kukudubas on the far range for them to eat in order to survive. But by having the Saber Slimes exclusively survive with a berry that only grows in certain locations, it makes sense that the only place they can find them is the Saber Slime Island. Then, once the player has one of Ogden's Gordo Deluxe traps, they can place it down in the wild, and they can either bait it with a Kukuduba or a golden Kukuduba. Because they already know the area from exploring, they can choose the best place for placing the trap for them depending on where they'll spawn and where they may spawn next time. Baiting the trap for a regular Kukuduba has a 20% chance the trap will snare a golden Saber Slime Gordo. However, baiting it with a golden Kukuduba has a 1% chance of snaring a golden Saber Slime Gordo. Once the Gordo slime is fed 50 Kukudubas, they burst, dropping golden Saber Slime plorts, which can then be traded to Ogden to get the player closer to unlocking the rest of his upgrades, which, much like the Puddle and Fire Slime plorts, cannot be combined with other slimes. This gives the player multiple choices. Do they A. If the player doesn't care about acquiring Ogden's upgrades, they simply collect the Saber Slime plorts and sell it on the market for a profit. However, without combining Saber plorts with another slime, the only way to acquire Saber plorts would be to go to the wild. B. They could trade hundreds of Saber plorts to Ogden to acquire multiple traps, and then bait them with regular Kukudubas in hopes that a large amount of traps would result in more likely chance of a golden Saber Slime being snared. Or C. Use up multiple plorts to have multiple wild gardens with Kukudubas growing in them. Then trade the Kukudubas to Ogden for golden Kukudubas, which can guarantee a golden Saber Slime Gordo. However, due to how long it takes for a Kukuduba to grow on the far range, only 1 golden Kukuduba can be acquired per garden per day. On top of that, if the player spends all the Kukudubas on golden Kukudubas, the player will have to wait for the next Kukudubas to regrow before they can feed them to the golden Saber Slime Largo. Both these options, I think, would be great. Of course, they're not implemented in the game, and the game is the way it is. However, it would be cool to see them. But as I said at the beginning of this video, despite criticizing this game, I think Slime Rancher is an amazing game. And I don't want to take anything away from it because of a few small inconveniences. There's so much else in the game to praise. The slimes, the sound design, the flushed out world, the mechanics, and just how cute and enjoyable it is. The fact that this was the first game by Monomi Park released and was so amazing that even after beating it so many times, I still returned to play another playthrough, despite there being nothing new to explore, but purely because I enjoy the game so much. It should be evidence enough to show how great of a company I think they are. I also understand that coding an entire game is far more complicated than most people know, and simply saying, why didn't they just implement this feature into the game, is far easier said than done. That being said, hopefully in the second game, if they do have extractors, they'll alleviate the grinding mechanic just a small amount, which I believe can be implemented by adding a second kind of plorts market. Despite the fact that selling plorts for a profit is the main focus of the game, by about halfway through the game, if you played smartly and have well enough maintained ranch, money kind of stops being a problem. There are features like the 7Z Club where you can get upgrades to your ranch, but apart from saving up to be able to carry 100 items in each slot, you more or less have enough money to buy whatever you want. This is why I believe implementing a mechanic where you can transfer plorts for resources as well as new bucks, or be able to use your new bucks to buy resources, would be a good idea. Yes, the original game does have the range exchange, but it's severely limited. You only get one chance in a game day, and the resources you get will be randomly decided. Instead, the game can have a range exchange similar to the market, where it shows how much each resource would cost and what you'd have to send to receive it that day. For this scenario, let's say the player wants wild honey for a teleporter. The value of honey plorts on the market right now is 8 new bucks. The price on the exchange is 10 honey plorts or 100 new bucks for 1 wild honey. Now, the player has a choice. Selling the 10 honey plorts on the market would only give them 80 new bucks, but if they exchange the plorts for the wild honey, they can choose to give up to 10 plorts worth 80 new bucks or spend 100 new bucks. This way, it creates a choice for the player and it's up to the player to decide how they want to play. They can either A, sell the plots on the market to get the Nubucks, which in turn only gives them 8% of the cost of the wild honey, but they can then spend that Nubucks on other items such as fertilizer upgrade, meaning the player can grow bigger yields of mint mangoes, resulting in more overall honey plots from the honey slimes, which in the long run will give them more overall profit to either use on Nubucks, new equipment, new resources, or upgrades. B, they can use the Nubucks they have to buy the wild honey they want, in turn losing out on 20 Nubucks, but they can then instantly get the wild honey for the teleporter, which means they can fast travel, saving a large amount of time travelling between the runs, and they can then add the honey plots to the lab for whatever piece of equipment they may need in the future. Or the player can use the plots on another slime to create a Largo, or the player can just sell the plots for 80 Nubucks. C, the player can sell their plots on the exchange for no Nubucks, but instead using the plots to buy resources, allowing them to acquire new resources for whatever they need it for in the future, which overall saves them 20 Nubucks. Then, the next day, the honey plots could be worth 15 on the market, but still only worth 100 Nubucks or 10 honey plots for wild honey on the exchange. Or the honey plots could be worth 7 on the market and 150 Nubucks or 15 honey plots on the exchange. If the player uses all their honey plots on the exchange, they'll have the resource to build a teleporter, but now they don't have the Nubucks to buy the jetpack boost, and they won't be able to reach the point they were trying to get to. If the player uses all their honey plots on the market, they've made more money overall and can afford the jetpack boost, but they'll have to spend the time walking back and forth from the location. A mechanic like this allows the player to choose what they want to prioritize: money, resources, or time. And I'm not saying get rid of the extractors altogether. Allow them to have both, which once again allows the player to decide as opposed to the game. This way, the player has multiple choices. A, pay to get the exact resource the player needed, in turn losing out on money, but allowing the player to get the item they needed for the resource, for which the long run will save them. What did I write here? Pay to get the exact resource the player needs, in turn losing out on money, but allows the player to get the item they needed the resource for which. Okay, that does make sense, but it's very poorly worded. Let me see if I can reword that. A, pay to get the exact resource the player needs, in turn losing out on money, but allows the player to instantly get the lab device they need the resource for, which in the long run saves them time. B, sell plots on the market to make money, and use the extractor and chance what they're going to get, which they may or not give them what they wanted. If the player gets what they want, they have to wait around another 12 minutes. However, if the player doesn't get what they wanted, they'd have to wait another 12 minutes in hopes of getting what they wanted. They could have paid for the resource they needed to begin with and saved 20, 30 or even 40 minutes, which is the risk. Or C, both pay to get the resource they needed and use the extractor. If the extractor drops the supplies that you've already brought, you the player would have an overflow of this resource that you may need in the long run. If it doesn't drop the resource you paid for, then you just have extra resources for other equipment. And yes, in essence, I did just kind of explain the stock market to you. There could even be a mechanic that allows you to pay for plots on the exchange for slimes that you've sold before but don't have on your ranch. What am I even writing here? There could even be a mechanic that allows you to pay for plots on the... Okay. There could even be a mechanic that allows you to pay for plots on the exchange from slimes that you've sold before but don't have on your ranch anymore. The more common the plots of resource, the cheaper it would be to buy. The less you've sold, the more expensive it would be to buy. Sometimes maybe you have certain plots or resources unavailable at certain times, and the more you buy of one certain item, the more expensive it would be in the long run. The same with selling. The more of something you sell, the less value it would have in the long run. This adds the idea of FOMO to the game, which once again adds another layer to the level of player choice in the game. For instance, if wild honey is available on the market right now for 15 honey plots as opposed to the normal 10, the player can buy the wild honey right now for a 50% increase, even though they don't need it for anything right now. Or they can wait until the next day where the price may go down, or it might be unavailable for the next few days, or it might even go up. By implementing a mechanic like this, it's the player's fault they don't have the resource they needed. It wasn't the game randomly deciding what random outcome they received from a random pot. The player had to choose whether to buy or not. The player had the choice to buy at a more expensive price. Maybe they couldn't afford it at the time because they were saving for something else. Once again, that's on the player because the player chose what to spend the Nubucks on. With all being said and done, if you take only one thing away from this video, it should be this. You should absolutely play Slime Rancher and support Mononoke Park, because it's clear how much love they've put into their game. I've beaten the game several times and have spent over 150 hours of playtime on my Steam account. And even so, even though I know where everything is, even though I know how to unlock everything, even though there's nothing left to find in the game, I'm sure in the near future I'll find myself starting a new game because of how much fun it was to play, in spite of that. How many other games can you say that about? There are very few games I've beaten more than 5 times and I think, you know what? I think I'll do a complete replay of this game from scratch. Let alone 10 times, or however many times I've beaten Slime Rancher at this point. The fact that I'm willing to make a video, however long this is, talking about how close to perfect this game was, should be a testament for how much I love this game. Monterey Park, I know you're not watching this, but if you ever do, thank you so much for creating an amazing game that's brought me and so much joy. Thank you for the love you put into your game. Thank you for everything. And I'm so excited for whatever comes next. Thank you so much. Well, that's my argument. Now it's your turn. Did you agree with my statements? Do you like the game the way it is? Would you have done something different to me? How, if any, would you like the game to be different? And finally, why did you first decide to click on this video? And where did this video appear? I am always fascinated to know where my audience is coming from. Okay, cool. That's the video done. This is a post-video ramble part, I guess. Got a lot to say here. So, I actually started writing this video, I think before Slime Rancher 2 was even announced, actually. This was originally a video on grinding versus farming. I was using Slime Rancher as one of my case studies. I was using it as a reference, and then they announced Slime Rancher 2. So I reworked the script a bit. But yeah. When was Slime Rancher 2 announced? Oh yeah, June 2021. I literally say it in my video, don't I, at the start. So yeah, this video I've had written, or have been writing for over a year now. Jeez. That's funny. I mean, it's nothing actually. I've got a video that I've been writing for close to 4 years at this point. Maybe even 5. I really get around to doing that video. But yes, if you're still here, if you're listening to me ramble, thank you. This is just a end of video bit. Yes, I started writing this back a while ago, and I have tried recording this so many times. I just couldn't for one reason or another. There's footage of me halfway through a video just stopping because I need to break. You can hear it in my voice. I've already strained it. My voice gets damaged very easily, which is why these videos are hard to make. But I'm so proud to have this video done now, and now I've got to go edit it, which I'm looking forward to. But yeah, hopefully this video will be up before Slime Rancher 2 comes out. I'm really looking forward to that game. And yes, I'm legitimately interested to hear what your responses are and where you came from, because where are my videos showing up, I wonder? YouTube is such a fascinating platform that I can't imagine where you came from. I mean, I can take a guess, a gaming video or a review video or a Slime Rancher 2 reaction video or something like that. But I don't know. So please, legitimately, tell me where you came from, because I'm so curious. I love that sort of stuff. So with that all said and done, I'm so happy with myself. I have this video done now. Time to go edit it. Hope I have enough footage. I really hope you've enjoyed this. This video is over an hour long, on my recording at least. Don't know how long it is in real life. But thank you. If you sat through this video, thank you. This is my first real, essay, documentary video. I've done stuff like this before, but this is the first one really on this channel. And I'm excited, because this is what I want to do with my life. I want to entertain people, and I hope this video was entertaining. So if it was, it feels weird. It always feels weird asking for this, but it's true. if you did enjoy this video, legitimately, if you enjoyed it, hit that like button. If you disliked it, if you disagree with not if you disagree, but if you legitimately think you didn't like this video, if you sat for yourself and went, I didn't like this, then yeah, by all means, feel free to hit the dislike button as well, but don't hit it because you disagree with me. Explain why you disagree with me. I'm not saying either of us are right. We just have conflicting views. And by talking about it, maybe we can come to a middle ground. And yeah, if you have friends who might like this, yeah, share it if you want to. Once again, it helps the channel grow, and I'd be sincerely thankful if you did. I'm not saying you have to or anything, but if you do, thank you. Thank you for helping me get my stuff out there. I don't know where this channel's going to go, but I'm excited. Now, I'm going to let my voice rest. I'm going to try and edit this and have it out soon enough. Today is the 11th of July. I'll try and have it out by the end of the month. Thanks for watching. If you did, like, share, subscribe and all that. New content's coming sometime in the future. I can't guarantee when, but I think the next video I'm making will be a Halloween video, so look forward to that. That's a big one. I really got to work on that soon. Anyway, thanks for watching. I appreciate all of you so much for sticking through to the end. Thank you. Now, go buy Slime Rancher if you haven't. I may have said so much about it in this video, but god damn it, go buy it. Go play it if you haven't played it already, and have a great old time. It's just a good game. Go buy it and play it. Or if you already own it, go re-download it and play through it again, because it's great. It's awesome. It's enjoyable. And yeah, that's all. Bye.